Happy Friday, everybody.
Hello, happy Friday. Welcome to the Back Catalog Listening Party. I am Anthony Ihrig, one of your hosts, and joining us today on this very special Songsgiving episode of the Back Catalog Listening Party is my other host and her band. Welcome, Mother Banjo and the Mother Banjo Band.
All right.
We have Eric
Thank you.
Paulson and Dan Gorder joining us today, and we're so thrilled to have all of you here. This is going to be a fun
Yes,
one.
we're excited for this. And I am excited because not only am I here with a beverage, today it's a latte with honey because I'm still caffeinating, but I also have pumpkin pie.
Ooh,
Because
delicious.
day after Thanksgiving, so we'd love to know what you are drinking or enjoying. Maybe you're enjoying some of your Thanksgiving leftovers on this musical happy hour that we enjoy together every Friday. And looks like a lot of folks joining the party nice and early today.
Yeah, we have Alan who says, Happy Black Friday, everybody, tuning in from the car dealership. Oh my goodness, waiting for a call. Very thirsty. My back catalog listening party pint glass is back at the house. Alan, I'm so sorry. Yeah, Connie from Richfield it says, Happy Thanksgiving. Hey, Connie, happy Thanksgiving. We have Ann. Happy Friday, Ann, and our friend Penny from Northfield. Hey, Penny. And our friend Christopher Jetner, who says the devil will never win, in reference to the album that we are going to be listening to today. We're celebrating the 10-year anniversary of the release of the Mother Banjo Band's "The Devil Hasn't Won" album, and man, are we excited for that. To listening to that today, and we thought we would do this partly because we also wanted, given this time of year and all the abundance that we have, we wanted to be able to spread the wealth a little bit and make this a charitable event as well. And Ellen, do you want to talk a little bit about the cause we're going to raise money for today?
Sure. We're going to raise money for Agate Housing Services, formerly known as St. Stephen's here in Minneapolis. And they do amazing work to fight homelessness and hunger in the Twin Cities. But they not only provide relief services and shelters and that kind of thing, but they work towards long-term solutions and do street outreach. And so they really are one of those organizations that's going above and beyond to really, again, really fight the problem and as well as provide some emergency relief. So as folks know here and everywhere, certainly housing seems to be a big issue right now. And as the weather gets colder here in Minnesota, we thought this would be a good cause and a good thing to give back to.
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful cause, especially this time of year, and we'll be passing the hat a few times throughout the episode. But if you're new to the show, this is our musical happy hour, our weekly musical happy hour, where we hang out with our good friends. We listen to music together, and we kind of reminisce about the recording of the album. We talk songwriting, we talk production, and so if you're out there and want to join in the party, you jump in the comments. We're going to be kind of scanning them, and we'll try to get to all your questions and comments throughout the hour. It looks like a lot of people are here and ready to go. I see a relative here.
Yes, my parents. Hi,
Welcome.
guys.
Thanksgiving greetings from New Haven, Connecticut. And our good friend Lynn and Lynn from South Carolina. Welcome. We're so happy to have you both here. And Joni is tuning in. Thanks, Joni. And we have Alex also tuning in from South Minneapolis. Alex says more banjo. Yes.
Okay, we'll
Yes.
make that happen, Alex. And I also see our good friend Brent
Hey,
Fuqua,
it's Brent.
who's been a sometimes member of the Mother Banjo Band. So he's not on this record, but he has played many a gig with Mother Banjo. So
It's so great to have all of you out there. People are ready for the party now. I was going to mention that I was having a Castle Danger Minnesota beer here in my back catalog pint glass, my back catalog listening party pint glass. But we were having so much fun backstage. I'm like halfway through it already.
hey, it's a holiday weekend, right?
It's a holiday weekend, and man, we are already having fun, and I'm so excited to kind of get into the music and stuff. But I can't imagine anybody watching here wouldn't know Ellen, you or Mother Banjo. You are just do so much between your music and your radio show and everything else that you do. But for those who are new to you and your music, could you give just a brief bio of how your band came together and maybe where this record sits in your discography?
Sure. Well, I grew up in New Haven, Connecticut, and made my way west, going to college in Ohio, spending a little time in Chicago, and then settling in the Twin Cities in 2001. And it wasn't till I moved to the Twin Cities that I picked up the banjo and started um, playing music and really writing songs in a serious way. I had written some songs before, but I was never really happy with them. It wasn't the banjo for me was the root of all the songs I wanted to that I was proud of or that I felt like I was a good voice for me, a good vehicle for me to write music. So I bought my banjo at Homestead Pick and Parlor in Richfield, Minnesota. Shout out one of our patrons of the back catalog. And yeah, I bought my banjo there. I took lessons there, and they've supported my albums, selling them in the shop. So big shout out to Marv there and all the folks working there. So yeah, and then after I started playing banjo, I immediately wanted to play songs. Or perform songs. Wasn't interested in being a crazy picker or anything. I really just wanted to accompany myself playing songs. So I started singing John Prine songs and different covers. And one day I was just playing around and on the newest chord I'd learned A minor. And I was like, yeah, it's a good one. Yeah.
Mhm.
And then, and I was just kind of playing with this weird downstroke style. I'd learned three finger and claw hammer, but I was like, oh, I like the vibe of this. And that became the first song I wrote, Square Envelope, and a song we still do sometimes with the Mother Banjo Band. So that's kind of how Mother Banjo started. And then I picked up the moniker Mother Banjo because it's not my given name, as you might know. Ellen Stanley is what my parents named me. And then let's see, I was playing kind of solo, doing kind of coffee shop gigs and things like that, doing open mics and just trying to figure out what my music thing was. And I met Dan. And let's see, Dan, you remember, I think we met at a Mabatma festival.
Yeah, it
One of
was.
the bluegrass festivals. Yeah.
I think the Rowe family were playing in the marketplace. Is that what it was called, Paulson?
Could be.
Yeah,
The August
it wasn't
festival.
like a real stage. It wasn't like a real
before,
stage.
My time with the Rowe family, but yeah, the stage by the food is. The
yeah, that's the one we were playing at.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I think one of us was crawling up a hill or something to get to the gig, and we introduced each other. And I might have heard you on KFAI. I think they played something off the first record with the Sweet Colleens backing you.
Yeah, and actually that song I mentioned, Square Envelope, was on that first EP. And it was actually that EP was recorded by a previous back catalog guest, Matt Lenny, in Chicago, in his apartment. But but a bunch of the Sweet Colleens played on that record. And and I just remember you saying to me, Dan, you're like, I'd like to sing with you. And I was like, what? Because I was like, you're like a real musician. And I was like really, really shocked. And you did. And you made good on that promise, because we started playing together not long after. I mean, what, 08 or something like that?
Oh, I feel like we were within a month or two. Yeah. Yeah. That's I know it's been about 15 or 16 years.
Yeah. So Dan was a trooper. Dan has played, he's too modest to talk about it, but he's played in so many bands over the years.
I just don't remember.
Yeah. But no, seriously, he was really slumming it with me, playing in these like coffee shops and farmers markets and like gigs that didn't pay. And he just like really saw something in me or that I wasn't even sure about. So it really was huge to have someone like Dan play with me, aside from his amazing guitar chops and vocal harmonies. Just having someone like that, kind of being your cheerleader is really huge. So that was, Dan was a big part of why Mother Banjo is still here now. So thanks to Dan.
I felt like you were actually classing up my act, because I was playing in rough and tumble bar bands, and I thought, finally I can play a listening room
to like two people. It was great. And and also you helped me build up the Mother Banjo Band. So because I think pretty like within that year we brought in at the time John Olson on bass.
I think you brought in the bass players. I brought in Parker.
And Jim Parker on
I
mandolin.
wanted to be in a band. I'd never been in a band with Parker, and I always wanted to be in a band with
Oh
Jim.
man, I'm playing in a band with Jim Parker, and Jim Parker's on the record. We're going to talk about. He's traveling with family right now, but he sends his regards to everyone. And yeah, Jim. So for a while it was like that trio, and then Eric joined the band in. I'm trying to remember. Was that 2012, 2011, something like that? I feel like it was probably 2012. I know it was around the time we were playing our Amsterdam residency. When the Amsterdam bar in St. Paul was kind of newish, we had a monthly residency.
I do remember not knowing any of the songs.
Yes. So what happened was it was Kevin Anthony's band, right? The Twin City Playboys, where basically we had a residency and we'd bring in different guests every month to join us. And you guys were the guests. And you were playing with Kevin Anthony. And John didn't make it to the gig. So you ended up just sitting in playing bass, like on all these songs you didn't know. And from then on out, we just like kept you.
Paulson, I can't remember. Were you with Mother Banjo before the Rose or after the Rose?
Before.
No, actually, that's how he ended up with the Rose, because Quillen asked me. He said, "How's Eric Paulson to play with?" And I said, "He's amazing." And then next thing I knew, Eric was playing with the Rose.
Because I ran into them because I was playing like with Jen Markey before they were playing on Mondays, and so I knew them from there too. But yeah, I remember someone at the summer festival talked me into going to yoga somehow. And you were there, Ellen.
That might have been, and it's funny, my friend Ann, who I think is in the chat, was probably also there. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, hey, Ellen, if you ever want me to play bass, let me know. And you're like, hey, how about like next Tuesday? You had some gig lined up. It's like, oh, all right.
That's kind of pretty much how the Mother Banjo Band rolls. It's like, oh, you really? You want to play like Brent here, who's joining us as well. It's like, oh, you want to play you're playing mandolin now? Hey, want to sit in on this gig?
Well, I remember that transition year because that's when I think both of us camped near the by the stables and by the store, the bar thing.
Yeah.
And I just remember us having a little rehearsal there.
Magical jam.
And just on the grass. I've still got the picture. I think Kurt Freilich played with us that day.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
awesome.
It's really great.
So, and I think they're referencing the Minnesota Bluegrass and Old Time Music Association's annual festival. And for those who don't know, the Rowe family singers, who has been kind of like a integral part of all of our lives, and these guys have been members of. They were the second guests that we had back in March of 2020 on the back catalog listening party, and just a wonderful band. And we're going to link to both the Minnesota Bluegrass and Old Time Music Association's website and the Rowe family singers in our show notes, which you can get to at backcatalog.listeningparty.com. But I know that people are out there wanting to get into some music, and this sounds like, Eric, you must have joined the band right before this album came out. Ellen, do you want to talk a little bit about this album and how it came about in this configuration?
Yeah, I mean, this album was recorded. Like Eric was definitely a part of the whole recording process, and he had been again. We had this residency, and I was playing a lot of gigs. So like Eric had a fair amount of time. Like these songs weren't new to Eric when we were recording. I remember that they were pretty familiar. With the exception of one song, which we'll probably talk about later. But yeah, these were songs we had just been playing out live a lot. And when we went into the studio at Wild Sound, I feel like we pretty much had the arrangements. I mean, there were little things, but I don't. Most of the songs, like this song, felt pretty solid when we went in to record it, is my memory. I don't know if other folks have other memories of this song in particular.
Well, the song that we're going to be listening to and that Ellen is referring to is called Rise Up, Sinner. So any reminiscing that you guys want to do on this tune before we give it a spin?
I think we might just need to take a listen to refresh our memories.
What's really fun about this show is that most of our artists don't go back and listen to the music that they recorded 10 years ago. So my guess is it's going to bring up lots of great memories. And for those of you who are going to hear it for the first time, you're in for a treat. This is the Mother Banjo Band with Rise Up Sinner here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
Sinner, oh sinner, rise up. Sinner, oh sinner, rise up. Couldn't find my way on that darkened highway. You brought me light, you raised me up. I was running my whole life with nowhere to hide. You held on tight, you raised me up. Rise up, sinner, rise up. Rise up, sinner, rise up. Rise up, sinner. Rise up. I fell hard and fast. Scrapes from the past, you healed them all. You raised me up. You saw me on the ground. I was sad and I was found. You raised me up. You raised me up. Rise up, sinner, rise up. Rise up, sinner, rise up. Rise up, sinner. Rise up. You raise me up. You raise me up. You raise me up. You raise me up. Rise up, sinner, rise up. Rise up, sinner, rise up. Rise up, sinner. Rise up. Rise up, sinner, rise up. Rise up, sinner, rise up. Rise up, sinner. Rise up.
All right, that was the Mother Banjo Band with Rise Up Sinner here on the Back Catalog Listening Party. We are revisiting the Mother Banjo Band's 2013 release, The Devil Hasn't Won. And man, did that sound fantastic. I'm with Alex, who said chills, and our friend Ted's "Oh Love," and Mr. Jetner says we got our vinyl press this week. Very tasty, like a fine red wine. And if you missed the first part of the show, we are celebrating not only the 10-year anniversary, but a vinyl pressing of this song, of this album. And I feel like for we all us audiophiles love to hear the best sound possible. And this is a really, really good sounding record. I'm wondering if you want to just talk briefly a little bit about how this album came together, where it was recorded, who was involved, all that kind of stuff.
So we recorded it at Wild Sound with Steve Call, who's also been a guest on the show. A few projects have been recorded at Wild Sound. And Steve, I mean, I was familiar with Wild Sound just as a studio. There's Steve at the board at Wild Sound. Yeah, Wild Sound has a beautiful studio, and I was familiar with it from a bunch of other projects I'd sort of been involved with. But Steve was someone I knew as a musician for a long time, and I appreciate him, not only him as a person and a musician, but he has very wide ears, so he appreciates lots of kinds of music. So I decided to record the album there. I also knew they could record us live but isolated, which is I'd never recorded that way. I'd always kind of one tracked everything, and it was always a challenge. This was now, I guess, when this album came out, it was my fourth recording project, but I still feel like a newbie sometimes in the studio. But it was really great because we've been playing as a band, and this was really meant to be a band project. This album was meant to capture that, and I wanted to make sure we could play live because we were feeling really good as a band. And we need to be able to accommodate drums and piano. And I should mention that's Ben Cookfelt's playing piano, who's a member of the Mother Banjo Band,
and the Mother Banjo family.
Yeah, and the Mother Banjo family, and he's tending to our kiddo right now. So who knows?
Kudos to Ben.
Yeah, so he couldn't be with us for this chat, but and this was actually the first project he was a part of. Well, he was on my previous thing. He played piano on one song, but he was a member of the band by this point.
And it looks like he was playing more than piano. We got a picture of him playing accordion.
He's going to be so mad I shared that, because we'll just keep that between us, okay, guys?
Okay.
Because I love these shots. So these were actually taken at Steve Call's home studio. So we tracked all the live basic tracks together at Wild Sound, but then we overdubbed some things at Steve Call's house, sort of to save some bucks and just for scheduling purposes. So we added on our version of Go Tell It on the Mountain, which is kind of meant to have a fun house carnival vibe to it. We had lots of weird percussion, and we decided accordion would sound good on there. And rather than bring in Steve handed Ben the accordion and said, hey, do you play the accordion? And Ben said, no. And he said, perfect. So because we wanted kind of a weird, like I said, fun house.
I think it was
vibe.
like a Salvation Army band, I think was the word being
Yes.
thrown
I think there was some drinking going on that night.
I wasn't there.
There definitely was drinking, and that was washboard, which was not so foreign since Ben's a drummer and percussionist. So like, even though he'd never played washboard, that was pretty easy for him. But that sounded great. But yeah, we did lots of weird experimental noises on some of the tracks. And one thing I want to point out is that every track on the album has banjo, but sometimes the banjo doesn't sound like a banjo. Like there's Ebo banjo on there. There's one where we're just like on Devil Hasn't Won, where it's just being used as a percussion instrument. So yeah, if you get the record or you listen to the digital version, you have to listen for where you can hear the banjo, because with the band, it's not always obvious. It's not some of the other Mother Banjo records. You can, it's more central. So
yeah, well, it sounds fantastic, and if folks do want to pick up a copy of this record, where would you want to send them?
Bandcamp is the place to find it.
Okay.
And otherwise, they can, if they live in the Twin Cities, they can come to our vinyl release show at the Dakota this Sunday at 7 p.m. Annie Mac is opening. It's going to be a fun time. And we'll have the full band except Eric. Because Eric is officially retired from, so we're releasing him from his bass duties. But we have Andy Schuster, who will be joining us on bass, who's fantastic.
Nice.
So
Actually, Eric has ascended to the mandolin.
yes, that's true. So maybe we'll see him in the audience picking away on the mandolin.
I needed something lighter in weight.
So you can pick up a copy, you can pick up tickets, and all the information you need at motherbanjo.com. And if you are just listening to this broadcast, we were just going through a series of pictures that we will be sharing at our show notes at backcataloglisteningparty.com/187. But I know Dan, if you might hear folks that Dan is in a public place, he actually has a gig. He was so nice to still tune in, even though he was supposed to be setting up. And we want to make sure that we get one more song in before he has to go and set up his gear. So So we're gonna just move right along here to lots of ways to go wrong, and I
good.
love that title. What do you
I
want to say
remember.
about this one?
Oh, well, this title was actually, it's too bad Jim Parker isn't here because he inspired this title, not because he has gone wrong, but because he was talking about playing. He plays with he was playing with Ukrainian Village Band at the time, and he was talking about how playing Ukrainian music and how there's lots of ways to play it wrong. There's lots of ways it can go awry, is what he was saying. And he was telling this story, and I thought that's such a great name and a great line. And so that's really what inspired the song. And this is when I was sort of generally conceiving of a gospel project. Well, before this, I had actually done a sinning album of sinning songs. And so I
this
thought,
is Redemption. Was this?
yeah,
Redemption?
exactly. So the EP, the sinning EP was 5 songs. The gospel album is I think 10 songs, 11 tracks. And so the idea was to make up for all the sinning, but actually lots of ways to go wrong. I actually had written for the sinning record, but we tried it out at a Mother Banjo Band rehearsal, and it wasn't working so well. So I kind of tabled it, and then I brought it back before this project, and I brought it to Steve when we were doing pre-production notes. And I was like, I have this song, but I feel like it's not going anywhere. And he just added he's like, what about this kind of chord change here? And I was like, oh yeah. And then I finished it all. And this was like the night before we were going to record. And I brought this to the band that morning. This is the only song we hadn't done before on stage. And we recorded it that morning in like one take, right? Something like that. It was pretty quick. Do you remember
I don't remember it, but I just going to say, I'm going to have to sign off. But
Okay.
I just wanted to say, I feel like this is the record where we stopped being sort of an acoustic-y, sort of Americana-ish, and we really shifted to where we are now, which is much more of like a soul vibe to a lot of the music. And I feel like that has stuck around. We have some bluegrassy stuff, but a lot of it has much more of a soul and sort of ambient rock vibe almost to it. But I feel like we've made a big transition on this record.
I think you're right, Dan. I think a lot of that was we brought in the electric guitar, not just for the recording, but for the live shows. You were playing electric guitar more, and we had having Ben with a piano.
Ben on the piano made a huge difference.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Dan, thank you so much for taking the time to be here.
I see you, buddy.
And join us.
I see you now.
It's so good to see you, and we're going to listen to a lot of your tasty guitar playing here.
Oh yeah.
Throughout the rest of this episode.
I'm going to go do some tasty setting up.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Dan. We're going to give this a spin right now. This is Lots of Ways to Go Wrong. The Mother Banjo Band here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
Didn't walk the line. Family paid the price. Lost my love and home. Now I'm cursed this earth to roam. There's lots of ways to go wrong. Only one road to get on. To make it right, make it true, make it home. Make it home. Found God on the street. Held up a lamp for my feet. Not like I thought it'd be. He simply said to me, there's lots of ways to go wrong. Only one road to get on. To make it right, make it true, make it whole. Make it home. Now I'm rising up from sin. Gonna let the light in. Shine on my path. Never looking back. There's lots of ways to go wrong. Only one road to get on. To make it right, make it true, make it home. hope, and it's love, and it's love, and it's love, and it's love.
Very nice. Mother Banjo Band, lots of ways to go wrong here on the Back Catalog Listening Party. And we're being joined by Mother Banjo, who's normally the other host of the album, but I'm going to take over today because we get to just celebrate this wonderful recording. And also Eric Paulson, who was playing bass on this album. And man, another stunning track. And I wanted to just point out, like Ellen had talked about, how the banjo, you might not know the banjo's in there. There might be different ways of playing it. And if you heard some percussion on that last track, you might not know that the banjo is very much a percussion instrument, especially in the hands of Mother Banjo. So I was grooving on that nice backbeat that you were adding there, Ellen.
Yeah, well, that's kind of the signature Mother Banjo style. It's not really any, as you know, Tony, being a banjo player and a teacher, it's not really any style that's taught by anybody as a
It's
standard
100%
practice.
original. I love it.
There's no Mel Bay Mother Banjo style
No,
band.
not yet.
Not yet. Not
And
yet.
I can show anyone anytime. It's super easy. No, I think it started when, as I mentioned earlier, I did learn three finger and claw hammer style, but I found when I was playing, especially starting out playing solo, I just wanted to mix up the sound a bit more. Like, I don't know, it didn't sound so musically repetitive. And I started doing that kind of style, which is all downstroke with your thumb pick for any of you banjo players. I know there's a few banjo players tuned in. And then I'm basically, so in the way it's claw hammer and that it's like rhythmic and all downstroke, but I'm using my thumb pick and then I'm hitting the head of the banjo on that backbeat. So, and then kind of playing stuff with that thumb pick kind of in between. So that's kind of the Mother Banjo, the Mojo style. And that was
sounds
in
great.
full force on lots of ways. And, you know, it's funny, we were getting ready for this big show this Sunday at the Dakota. We've been rehearsing these songs with the band, and I've had to remember some of these songs that I don't play as often. And with lots of ways, we couldn't remember if there were drums on it or not. And then I was like, oh no, it's just my banjo.
Yeah, it really stood out. I mean, like the way it kind of mixed in there, especially with the full band. Dan said as he was leaving that this one was kind of moving away from purely acoustic to this kind of more Americana, fuller sound, electric instruments and things like that. And man, that just fits right in the pocket there.
Which is amazing because, as I said, that was one we really, the band didn't know. We just recorded it that day, and it felt really good. And
Well, you wouldn't notice, and it sounded great. And Penny agrees. She says that was lovely. And our good friend Becky Schlegel got her vinyl. Hey, Becky.
Hi,
She
Becky.
loves it, and she says the cover art is beautiful. And I agree. I'm going to hold it up
yes.
here. Do you want to talk about this cover art?
I do want to talk about it. Well, it's done by Emily Murphy, who's based here in the Twin Cities, a good friend. And as you can see, a beautiful design. She did that painting. I have the original somewhere that she gave to me. And I kind of had the concept for the album, for the art. And she's designed actually all of my album covers, but she also did the previous one, which as I mentioned, was a collection of story songs about sinners, cheaters, and ne'er-do-wells. And that also had a kind of more painting like feel. And for both of these, I had kind of the concept, and then she amazingly pulled this forth from my very vague descriptions. I had this idea of a hand pulling up another hand, but I really didn't want it to feel like it was one person, one all-knowing person, or, you know, fixing the other person. I didn't want to have a patronizing feel. I wanted it to be like a joyful, like coming together. And she really captured that with the red and the yellow too, these warm colors.
The colors do change the whole feeling of it.
Yeah, and so she did this beautiful painting, which was the other thing is, I mean, when you do a gospel record, you know, you could do the country church or, you know, like all these things where you're like, you've seen a million times, or just, but that wasn't the vibe of the record, as Dan said. It was really more of a soul kind of vibe. And also, I was thinking a lot about this when I put together these songs. Like, gospel music has always been a big part of my live shows, and every record I've done has had at least one gospel song on it, usually originals or maybe a traditional one, because I love singing the music. but I'm picky about the ones that we both, obviously the ones I write things that I think jive with my theology and my outlook on life, but also picking gospel songs. So being really clear that I want it to be accessible to everyone, that this is music meant for everybody. And I think the themes on this record really speak to that. It's like even that last song, which if you were just listening to the choruses and didn't get to the end, you might be like, lots of ways to go wrong. Like it's a wagging your finger song, and it's not, because the whole point is at the end, it's like, the only way is love. It's not like the only way is this way. So I feel like the album is really meant to be about celebrating being human and trying to be better and trying to love each other more and enjoy these moments where we can be together with people. Because what we have right now, we don't know what comes next, but what we have is right now, and being the best people we can be for each other. So that's kind of the themes of the record.
Awesome. Yeah, and very much the kind of the idea behind the show here at the Back Catalog Listening Party. And Alan has a great question. Normally, again, if you're new to the show, normally Ellen is asking the questions, most of the questions. But Alan says, Ellen, the tables are turned. How does it feel to listen to your old music?
Yeah, I don't listen to my albums at all. But I have been listening to this one only because getting ready for this this vinyl re-release, I kind of had I had to listen to the tracks again, and also I've been revisiting the tunes. Some of them are regular rotation songs in the Mother Banjo set, but some had to kind of remind myself how to play.
Relearn from your own record.
Yeah, exactly. So I've been revisiting the songs a bit, and I have to say, actually, so far, especially the two tunes that we've listened to so far, I'm just struck by what a beautiful job Eric and Dan and Jim and Ben did on this record, and Steve
and Ellen.
but really, these songs came alive through the band. There's a reason why this was called, it was put under the name Mother Banjo Band, even though iTunes and Spotify doesn't like that, because if you go to Mother Banjo, the Mother Banjo Band's album isn't listed. So if you're ever looking for this on the streaming services, look for Mother Banjo Band. But I put it under that name because I really feel like these songs only happened the way they did because of the band, because they really came from the live performances. And I think even the arrangements wouldn't have been at all the same, because they were really worked out from everyone working on those songs. So I'm struck by that. And then the other thing is, we probably won't listen to any of the ones where I'm like, oh, I would do that very differently. But I do feel like even those, because I thought about that when we were going to re-release on vinyl. I'm like, oh, I could maybe fix it up a little and, shine it up a bit. And then I thought, no, that would kind of ruin it. Like the whole point is that, point of any recording is it captures a moment in time. And I feel like at the time we recorded this was definitely the best thing I could have done, and we all could have done. And so I'm proud of that for that reason. And I think generally it feels like it holds up, and there's a reason why this record, we sold out of CD copies many years ago, which is why we wanted to press it again on vinyl, is because people request it all the time. And so it is speaking to people, even if now I'm thinking, oh, I would have recorded this differently and I would have done that differently. And oh, why did I do that? But
well, I reckon that you play them differently now. And
yes,
if folks are interested in hearing the revised versions of the songs and picking up the original versions of the song, the Mother Banjo Band has a big show this Sunday, November 26th, at the Dakota in Minneapolis. It's the 10th anniversary of this wonderful CD. And I highly recommend, if you're in the Twin Cities area, to go and check out the show. It's going to be a lot of fun. Who did you say was opening again? I forget.
Annie Mac is opening.
Annie Mac. Oh,
and
man.
She's going to guest in with the band. And then Mary Bue's going to sit in on a couple tunes where Ben on the album plays drums and piano, but obviously you can't do both in real life very easily. So Mary Bue's gonna. I know.
If anyone can do it.
Yeah, he could. Exactly. But Mary's gonna play piano and add some. So there's gonna be 4 voices on a few of the songs. So we're pretty stoked. It's gonna be a lot of singing on this show. So I would say if people want to go to just a show of joyful night of music with a lot of singing, and good times, either to You can bring your family with because it's nice and early at 7 p.m. Or if you want to escape your family, either one. I
Either
get
one
it.
works. You can get tickets directly at dakotacooks.com. I put that in the comments. I'll put it in the show notes too. And it's going to be really interesting to hear how the songs have evolved. But now like you mentioned, Ellen, these songs were recorded at a specific time in your life, and that there is something very special about that. And I want to hear another one of these tracks here. And the next one is the title track.
Yeah.
The Devil Hasn't Won.
I was hoping you were going to play this one.
Yeah.
All right,
yeah.
Ellen, what do you have to say
The
about
Zeppelin
this?
tune.
Well, and it's funny because I think Chris said the devil hasn't won or whatever.
We'll never win, yes.
It will never win. Well, in general, I would just say I want to preface this by saying generally I'm an optimist. In general, I what's the quote about the long arc of history tends toward justice or whatever. So I do believe that. Sometimes it feels like a longer arc than many of us would like. Lots of crazy happening in the world. And there was even when I, put this album out, but it's funny. People have been asking me a lot about that. They're like, do you still believe that? 10 years later? It's like, yeah, I still do generally. Yeah. So I think this sort of gets at sort of the general optimism of like, I think we can't feel like we're being dragged down by negative forces, like whatever. I mean, I use devil in that sort of general sense, like of, either our own past demons or what other wrongs people have done us. Is like, all you can do is, deal with your own stuff and try and be better for other people. So that's kind of the general purpose.
I'm sorry. What I like about the title though is that it does imply that the fight is ongoing. Right?
Yeah.
The devil hasn't won, but we're still working on it, and I think that it ties in with the album art so well, and it's really, that's all we can do is to try to keep keep fighting for what we believe in and what's good. That's awesome.
Right. And the actual song came from, this is interesting because I mentioned the Sinning EP, which is Stray Songs, and we'll link to that in the show notes maybe, but there's a song on that album called Firebird, and the last line of it, and that's a song about someone who is again trying to overcome their demons, and the song ends with the line, "The devil hasn't won," and so that kind of became the catalyst when I thought of what comes after that. So that became the name of this gospel record that followed that. And then this is one of those rare moments where I actually wrote a song for the title. So I actually wrote the song is just inspired by that line. It's a very simple gospel song, and just sort of meant to be more of like a percussive voice kind of style gospel song. And I have to mention this, Tony, I believe you make an appearance on this song.
Yeah. I
don't have a photo of it.
I remember going to Steve Call's basement 10 years ago, and discussing all of these same ideas and getting to jump in and sing some.
Yeah, I think you're on 2 tracks. I think we assembled a bunch of people, some of whom were amazing singers, and some people who are not normal singers, but I wanted kind of a combo of people who would just have the right spirit and vibe, because I called it the Mojo Gospel Choir, I think is what I called you guys. Because and this kind of fits in the whole theme of what I call what we do, which is pub gospel, and that it's meant for everyone to sing, right? It's not limited to certain people, and can be sung anywhere. It doesn't have to be a church or some big concert hall. It's just music that's meant to inspire you, make you feel good. But anyway, so I think you're in there, and Pete Sandvik from the Sweet Colleens, who's an accordion player, and
Mikkel Beckman,
and
Jackson
Buck, who's a DJ. He's like, I'm not a singer. I'm like, I don't care. Come on in. I think I just did a big call. Like whoever.
Chad Johnson, who was my bandmate at the time,
and he's an amazing singer. Yeah.
And what you guys can get if you purchase this album are these awesome liner notes, which is where I'm getting this information from right now. A wonderful insert in this 180-gram vinyl edition of The Devil Hasn't Won. You should go pick it up. But right now, I can't wait to listen to this one. I'm not sure you'll be able to pick me out. I'm hoping not. This is the Mother Banjo Band, The Devil Hasn't Won, here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
Well, the devil hasn't won. Life has just begun. Gonna jump up, up for joy, 'cause the devil hasn't won. Woke up from a load I'd weighed, rose up and found today. Gonna live like I'm saved, left my load and weighed. Found the light in me, get tall from a mustard seed. Gonna grow so, so high. Found the light in me. Well, the devil hasn't won. Life has just begun. Gonna jump up, up for joy, 'cause the devil hasn't won. No, the devil hasn't won. Devil hasn't won. No, the devil hasn't won. The devil hasn't won.
All right. Mother Banjo Band, The Devil Hasn't Won, here on the Back Catalog Listening Party. And as long as people are coming together and singing music, the devil can't win. We're so happy that you're all here joining us today on the Back Catalog Listening Party. This is our weekly musical happy hour, and it really, just like what Ellen was saying, it's about the people coming together, and it really is why I guess we're trying to keep that balance, the good and evil balance, is the best way to do it. And other ways that we can do that is by spreading the wealth a little bit. And one of the things we wanted to do with today's show, since normally Ellen is on the other side of the microphone, so to speak, is to, rather than send a tip jar around for Ellen, we'll have you go, buy the record and go to the show. But if you're liking what you're hearing today and you like the idea of the devil not winning, you can check out this great organization. I actually hadn't heard of it, and now, is it Agate or Agate, like the rock?
It's funny. I just thought it was a gate, but I don't know. That's a good
maybe-
question. If anyone knows, tell us in the comments.
Well, either way, it's a wonderful organization. Their motto is food plus shelter plus support equals home. And that's what we all need. And they're out there on the streets making this happen for people who are, have food insecurities and are unhoused. And it's such a great organization, and their mission is so important. So if you're liking what you're hearing today, and you want to put a little something in the charity hat, you can go to Agate or Agate, mn.org/donate. We'll put that link in the comments and in our show notes. And again, we really just wanted to do what we could this week, to kind of just keep spreading the joy and spreading what we have built together here on this program, with as many people as possible. And we couldn't have done this without our community, with this very specific group of people who have been with this back catalog program from the early days. And even though we started it during the pandemic as a way to kind of stay connected and do all of those things, once things started opening up, there was a group of people that told us that they wanted to continue to meet here every Friday and to continue to kind of celebrate music and listen together and appreciate the kind of community that only music can bring. And so we want to give a big shout out to our Patreon community, who keep the lights on here at the Back Catalog Listening Party. A big thank you to Penny, Ann, Alinda, Bevan, Connie, Vaughn, Alan, Chris, Alex, Becky, Galen, Peggy, Joe, Jim, Beverly, John, Fred, Tim, Sarah, David, Jocelyn, Matt, Steve, Mark, the Homestead Pickin' Parlor, Severin, Lynn, Mary, Many Tracks, Nikki, Joni, David, Sarah C., CJ, Wiley, and Stephanie, and maybe you. If you want to be part of this community, we would love to have you. It's the place where I get to nerd out about all the things that I love: music and songwriting, recording, production, all those kinds of things. And then, more importantly, I get to see Ellen every week, and I get to meet new artists every week. And then we get to do things like we're doing today, where we're having an after party after this session. I sent a little email out to some of our Patreon supporters and said, what music are you grateful for? We want to hear your picks. And so I've got a great list of tracks, and we're going to all hang out in Zoom and listen to more music together. And we would love to have you join us in the future. So if you're interested, you can check out patreon.com/back catalog listening party. We'll put that in the show notes. But most importantly, thank you for being here and supporting music and being part of this community, chiming in. It's been such a lively crowd here.
Yeah,
We've
and
got,
it looks like Chris has a good observation. He said Eric's beard is slightly shorted on liner notes. Yeah, do you have any of those photos from the studio, Tony, in
Yeah,
there,
let me
or maybe
look.
from or maybe even our promo shot with the vinyl?
Oh, sure. Yes. Here we go. Let's see here. We're going to go to.
Because we want to show what Chris was talking about. And if you're listening again, these are photos from the studio. There is a photo of us at Jaime's Records on East Lake Street. And this was photo shoot for that album. And look at Eric. Look at that short little beard.
Look
It
at
must
beard.
have been before 2017 when I started growing it.
Oh man, yeah.
Oh,
So Eric's been working on that thing a long time.
yeah, I love it.
I just cut about 6 inches off of it. You know, it was
Wow.
pretty long. And I got to grow
Wow.
this part for the winter. to warm up.
Gotta fill it out for the winter. But there are some great photos that we've included too in the insert of for the vinyl version. But that photo you had of us with the record, I think, is so fortuitous because we did that photo shoot at Jaime's Records before we knew we would have a vinyl version of the album. So we must have been manifesting 10 years prior.
Yeah, it was funny. I was wondering when I looked at that here. I'll get it back up on the screen. I was like, oh wow, did they already have like a first edition? But it wasn't. And look at that! You've manifested the vinyl, and look, you've manifested another member of the Mother Banjo Band.
Oh,
Everybody
look.
wave to Ben
Can't
Cookfeld.
hear
Say
Oh, wait.
anybody, but I'm saying hi.
He
Oh, wait,
can't
wait.
hear you, but there's another integral member of the band here.
I was gonna say, what I should do is Ben should share any. I can't remember what song we have queued up next, but
Next we have New.
oh, we have new.
But I don't know if we have time. We have probably time for just one more, unfortunately.
Okay, well, I'm gonna ask
so-
the Mother Banjo Band if we're between New and Witness. Which should we listen to?
New.
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 Okay.
I can say something if
Okay.
I'm new.
Yeah. Here. Why don't I'm gonna
Hi,
pass this up.
Ben, for
Here,
anyone
wait.
who doesn't know me. Okay, great.
No, I won't hear.
Super high tech. Okay. Hello.
Hey, Ben.
Hey, Ben.
Great to have
Hi.
you on the program.
Thank you. I was able to step away from a 4-year-old and his Play-Doh excursions to say hello for just a second.
Excellent. Well, welcome. And we were just talking about the next song that we have lined up, which is New. And,
Yeah.
do you have something to say about that one?
The one thing that I have to say is I remember Steve Call working with me on the piano part for this song. I can't remember if it starts with piano or if just piano is just prominent right at the beginning. But basically what he wanted me to do was this was not a re-recording, but there had already been a version of New on Ellen's previous record. And he specifically wanted me to come up with a part that basically sounded like what she was doing on the banjo. Like specifically she was doing this kind of ba-da-da-da chromatic thing. And it was really fun because I came up with the piano part that I don't think I would normally have done, but it basically matched what she was doing on the banjo. And I think
Cool.
it sounds really cool. It gives a
That's
really
awesome. Something for us to listen to. And I think that's the kind of little tidbits, it's like, where did that part come from? And here it is. We know. And speaking of parts, Chris asked if you could crash the cymbal. And Alan is wondering if Stan is coming to the after party. And Linda says we want Stan.
Wow, geez. We'll see what we can do. That might be too much of a chaos element if we brought Stan into the mix.
Well, I will say I'm going to agree with Chris here. This episode is moving way too fast. I can't believe we only have time for one more song, but we want to get to it for sure. And we're going to be listening to the track New. But before we do, I just wanted to point out something that, hold on for just a second here. There we go. I'm going to get the cover art up. That I was not aware of, but that our friend Joni noticed was that The Kopp Family Foundation's matching dollar for dollar today on the website for the charity that we're raising money for today. So what a great time to jump in and throw a little something in there, because your money will be doubled, and that's going to go to a very worthy cause. If you like what you're hearing and you enjoy all of this, that would be how we would love to have your appreciation today, to spread it around, food plus shelter plus support. We want a home for as many people as possible. But in the interest of time now, we are going to listen to this final track. Ellen, is there anything you wanted to say before we played this last track?
No, I mean, Ben said I originally wrote it for my Sinning EP, but this was a song that really felt like it was all about starting again. So that's just as applicable to a gospel album as it is a more confessional one. So we just wanted to record it in a more joyous kind of way instead of a darker indie folk way.
All right. Well, here it is, Mother Banjo Band, new here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
Night and day, so I shed my skin, let it fall away. I wanna be new for you. I wanna be new for you. Flew far and wide from winter time through darkened skies. The death counts high. Waiting it out for snows and storms. Hid down south, I dream of home. I wanna be new for you. I wanna be new for you. Spring, a flower bold that grew back green. I came back home. Wild roots still run deep, but I know that you, my soul, will keep. I wanna be new for you. Wanna be new for you. Wanna be
And to hear hear what goes into, you'll have to hear the record, because yeah, that track is like the bridge between two songs. That kind of sound going out of that.
Was that the Ebo Banjo one?
Well, it definitely is at the beginning. I think at the end that might have been the electric guitar, but I can't remember. Yeah. So I also remember from that song, I think Ben was playing the drums, right? For when we first recorded it, drums, and you're playing electric bass. Eric plays both electric and upright on this album. But I think Ben did the piano part later. Obviously, couldn't play both at the same time. But yeah, but I remember there was a lot of thought put into the way the tracks go into each other. But in the weird times of digital tracks, it has that sudden stop.
Yeah, well, and that's another argument for the album format. You know, if you get the record, which I highly recommend that you do, I'm going to show it off one more time in all its glory. The LP, which just arrived on my doorstep today, hand delivered, which I appreciate. You get to hear the way that those stories are told. Sometimes you can't tell a story in 3 minutes. You have to tell it in 30 minutes. And the way that the sequence of songs that are on records are important. And oftentimes it does help tell the story. So I'm going to recommend one more time that if you're in the Twin Cities area, you head on over to the Dakota Club here in Minneapolis this Sunday, the 26th, and you can pick up a copy and hear how the band has tweaked the song since in the last 10 years. We just really want to thank you for being here today, and we want to thank anybody who's donated to this wonderful charity. I'm not sure if it's a gate or agate, but either one, it's amazing. And Joni mentions, literally doubling my donation with that foundation is amazing thing for people out on this cold night. It is cold here in the Twin Cities. It's only going to get colder. And this is the perfect way to not let the darkness win, says Joni. And she says, beautiful album and show. Thank you, Joni, so much. Thanks for your donation. And our friend Chris is heading out to donate as well. And we really appreciate that. Because, again, I think a motto that is always kind of underlined, my philosophy with both this show and everything else comes from our previous senator, Mr. Paul Wellstone, who said, we all do better when we all do better. And I really feel that. And I feel like this album is kind of a testament to that as well. And speaking that same language. And Ellen and Eric and Dan, who already left, thank you so much for sharing the music and the stories and everything with us. It just went by way too fast is the only issue.
I know. And it's so great for me to get to see Eric because we don't, I don't get to play with Eric very much anymore, but Eric was a part of the band for a long time and played on 2 records, and obviously
we had some good times, Ellen.
So many good times. Are you kidding? So many great meals, and also Eric is a great running buddy as well. So, I also want to say I feel like I can't believe we haven't said it, but there's a motto in the Mother Banjo Band, which is, I love this band, and usually it was Jim Parker saying it.
Parker.
But it's true. Part of the reason why this album feels so good is the spirit of the people who made it, and all such dear friends. And I just feel very lucky to make music with them.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I feel lucky to have you guys here today. And as my hat says, music is medicine, and I believe this came from our previous guest, Alexa Dawson, episode a couple weeks ago, and I really believe that. But as I was pondering this idea of music being medicine, I realized I do believe the active ingredient is the community. The active ingredient is the people. So one more time, thank you to everybody out there who came to hang out with us and listen to the music with us. Again, huge thanks to our Patreon community. And don't go anywhere because we're going to meet up right after this for a little Zoom after party. And we're going to listen to music that you're grateful for. And I can't wait to spin those tracks. And we want to thank everybody. Connie says, fun show. Thanks, Connie. So happy to have you here. Penny says, thanks. Happy Thanksgiving weekend, everybody. We really appreciate that. And we appreciate all of you. And can't wait to see you again next week here on the Back Catalog Listening Party. Thanks again, Mother Banjo Band. And we'll see you next week on the Back Catalog Listening Party. Cheers.
Cheers, everybody.
Bye-bye.